First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister use my son's yacht for her wedding? My son Thomas passed away a year ago at the age of 25. He was such a sweet soul. He was kind and sympathetic. Despite having suffered so much, he still had a joyful smile. He wanted to be an engineer, but unfortunately he couldn't continue his education. He was involved in a car accident and had a severe injury and became paralyzed. I did everything I could to help him regain his life, but what happened was devastating. We were spending time at the hospital while my family were getting together celebrating birthdays/weddings, etc., and excluded me and Thomas. I asked them to show up, at least show emotional support to Thomas, but they didn't visit. I took Thomas home and I became his primary caregiver. I found that Thomas was home 24/7 with no family visiting us, even on holidays. Every time I complained, my sister would suggest I put Thomas in home care. Eventually, I stopped begging them to visit and include Thomas in their events and check in on him. They treated Thomas like he was dead. He suffered from anemia. It affected his heart function and his health was getting worse. 4 months before he passed away, I decided to achieve at least one goal he had in his mind. He always wanted to get his own yacht and wanted to buy it himself. I sold a land I had for 5 years and I bought a yacht. I told him that it was his. He was overjoyed. We started spending most of his time there, on weekends and on holidays, till he suddenly passed away, and it was devastating. I couldn't visit the yacht till 6 months after his passing, as this is where I remember him the most. My family visited, made Facebook tributes, hanged pictures of him, and visited his grave. I was still upset with them, and I kept my distance. But last week, my mother and sister were visiting and asked if they could use my son's yacht for my sister's wedding this summer. I declined, but they talked about how expensive it is to rent a yacht and that mine was perfect. I corrected my sister, told her that's Thomas's yacht. Thomas, who they refused to visit and comfort during his dark times. My sister denied all that and said she didn't come to talk about the past, and that as her brother I should help out. I argued with her and my mother after they said I was declining out of spite, and called me selfish to punish them for Thomas' death. My brother said I was wrong because the family is keeping his memory alive by talking about him, and that I should get therapy, otherwise I'll be causing people to cut me out. Now for the top comments. OP, if they did not visit once while he had all this, say, fine, you can use his yacht as many times you've visited him during that time. Not a a-hole, by the way. This, not a a-hole. So sorry you're dealing with this. Not a a-hole for this. Very sorry for your loss. But you might benefit from therapy for you, not to appease your family. Thank you. I have a group of people who also experienced what I've experienced, and I meet with them every week and we talked for hours. Before that, I was in therapy. My brother doesn't know that because of how distant and the rest of the family have been. Not a a-hole. They talked about how expensive it is to rent a yacht and that mine was perfect. I corrected my sister, told her that's Thomas' yacht. Thomas, who they refused to visit and comfort during his dark times. My sister denied all that and said she didn't come to talk about the past and that as her brother I should help out. I argued with her and my mother after they said I was declining out of spite. So what if you are declining out of spite? She contributed negatively to your son's last few weeks. She's lucky you aren't agreeing to it, only to sell the yacht a day before. I mean, they even admit he has something to be spiteful for. They know what they did is wrong. They just don't care. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother and his wife out after they asked my wife to host their baby shower 2 weeks after she had a stillbirth? My wife and I were expecting our first baby boy together. We've been married for 3 years and my wife had 1 miscarriage before, and we were really optimistic about this pregnancy. But the unexpected happened and my wife had a stillbirth 2 weeks ago. It all happened so fast. We thought we planned for everything, but all that was unexpected. We were devastated to say the least. We haven't gone out nor talked to anyone during these times. My mom and family visit to check on us. They bring meals, books, and they ask how we're doing every day. Yesterday, my brother and his wife were visiting as well. His wife's pregnant with their second, and the moment they sat down, she started talking about her baby shower. My wife and I were getting uncomfortable as she went on about what they're going to do. My mom was sitting there when my brother's wife looked at me and my wife and asked my wife if she's willing to host her baby shower party. We were stunned. My wife almost cried, while my brother just sat there, arms folded, and smiled at us. His wife said no one is available, so she asked my wife to do it, and that I'll be nice for her to change the mood. I immediately lashed out on her and told her to stop because she was acting selfish and inconsiderate of what we're going through. She played dumb, as I reminded her that we just lost our son, and asked how could she possibly think it's okay to even ask something like that. My brother told me to calm down, but I lost my temper. My wife went inside a room, and I kept telling them what an insensitive request my sister-in-law just made. Shockingly, no one thought it was a big deal. We got into an argument, and my brother blew up when his wife started crying. I told them to leave, and my mom didn't like that I was yelling at them and lashing out. After they left, my mom reminded me that they're the ones sending meals and checking on me and my wife. She berated me for half an hour and told me to wait till they come down and apologize because I was out of line with how I behaved. I haven't talked to them. My dad says whatever happens, I shouldn't treat them like that and that my anger was misplaced and I hurt the people around me, which was unacceptable. Two things to point out. I'm not sure about them lacking intelligence because they're both intelligent enough to obtain a degree. My sister-in-law is a school secretary and my brother is a dentist. Also, I really thought my wife's family were worse because they wanted to have some of our baby's things to take with them before leaving town after they came. We're in low contact with them. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. First of all, I'm sorry for your loss. I hope you guys are getting okay. Secondly, literally reading that filled me with anger on your behalf. How insensitive and selfish can you be? Also, seriously? Planning a baby shower will change your wife's mood? She's not upset because she banged her toe. She lost a baby. Your wife was almost crying and they still didn't stop? You were well justified. This is perfect. I'm livid just reading the post. Sister-in-law and brother are truly horrible people. I genuinely can't think of exactly what thought process led them to think this is a reasonable request. After they left, my mom reminded me that they're the ones sending meals and checking on me and my wife. Yeah, and now you know why. Not out of love, but out of attempting to buy compliance through indebtedness and guilt. You don't owe them a damn thing. There was no way in hell any reasonably adjusted person would be that tone-deaf. That was malicious, and I admire your restraint. Not a-hole. Yeah, I felt awful after my mom told me that. She managed to make me feel as if I created this terrible situation. Not a-hole. Forget them for now and talk to people who love and support you. Not a-hole. Your sister-in-law is tacky as hell and completely oblivious to decency and social norms. Your mom as well, and fortunately. Your brother should have told her to shut the F up about her baby shower. You protected your wife as best you could, considering the circumstances. Sending people aid when they're having a crisis does not give you the right to treat them like robot slaves. The next story is titled, Would I be the a-hole if I told my mom that suing would be pointless even though it means a lot to her? I feel like an a-hole even thinking about this, but I also feel she needs some hard truth. When me, 25 male, and my sister, 27 female, were 9 and 11, my mom had a baby, our sister. She lived for 6 weeks before passing away from SIDS. As most can imagine, my mom was never the same since. The same day our sister passed away, CPS stepped in and removed me and my sister from the home. I didn't know why at the time, but she was awarded custody of us 2 years later. During this time, my sister, who was placed in a different home, was dealt a horrible hand, which I can't explain here. But because of this, when she was released into my mom's care, she was just broken. Started drinking heavily at 13, dropped out of school, etc. Mom refused to get her into therapy for help because I dealt with the death of a child and worked through it myself, so you can work through this yourself too. My sister never went into full detail about the events she was faced with, thank God, because that probably would have landed me in jail. Anyways, my mom spoke of suing DHHS for years following that. Went to law school to become a lawyer to better her case and everything. 8 months ago, she put in the paperwork to sue DHHS for taking us back then. The next week, I was helping Mom move and came across all the paperwork and files from our DHHS case years ago, and I took them. I shouldn't have, but I did. I went digging. Turns out that my mom's ex-alcoholic boyfriend was a main suspect in my sister's passing. So we were lied to. It wasn't Sid's. It also stated in the paperwork that my mom was given a strict order to go no contact with her ex while we were in state custody, and she failed to do so. That's why it took her 2 years to get us back. Given that I now know all of the information, I want to explain to my mother that suing would be a giant waste of time and money. She has asked us to help her out with lawyer fees and to speak on the stand on her behalf. My sister, still broken, has outright refused and has gone no contact. She was older and knew then that my mom was hiding something about the case and doesn't trust my mother and holds a lot of resentment. Anyways, would I be the a-hole if I told my mom that she shouldn't sue and that now that I know everything about the case, I will not be vouching for her on the stand? Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry you have been through all this. If you haven't already, get yourself some therapy. I have gotten myself into therapy and it has helped me a lot. Unfortunately, my sister hasn't been so fortunate. She tried getting help through therapy and was basically told that she was lying and it was all in her head. What kind of awful therapist told her that? Did multiple therapists say this independently or was it just one? It was 3 different therapists, which is even more messed up. I think they thought that she just wanted meds, honestly. Was it when she was younger? I hate to say this, if you haven't considered it, but your mom could have collared the treatment. She checked herself into therapy on her own when she left our house at 16, and then tried again 3 years ago because she still has nightmares and severe post-traumatic stress disorder. The last therapist she went to told her that she has kids now. If she was to get diagnosed with mental health issues, then it would be possible that CPS would look into her stability and possibly deem her unfit. She immediately pretended to be okay and took herself out of therapy because of that one comment. She won't go back. Not at a-hole. As much as your mom tries to play herself as the victim, she's at fault. She lied to you. She contacted her presumably dangerous boyfriend when she was ordered not to, and maybe most importantly, she denied therapy for your sister. Mom refused to get her into therapy for help because I dealt with the death of a child and worked through it myself, so you can work through this yourself too. That's appalling and shows your mom's true character. How selfish and a crap human does someone have to be to say something like that to her clearly traumatized and hurt daughter? It sounds like the "she was never the same since" is something she wants you to believe so as to use it as an excuse whenever she screws up / mistreats you. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I will never be in her stepson's kid's life? My mom and stepdad married when I was 6 and his son was 9. We have never been close and he has never cared for a relationship with me. From the ages of 8 to 15, we fought like crazy and he made the fact we'll never be family clear to me. He also doesn't like my mom or our extended family. He has not said a single word to me in almost a decade and I'm fine with it. He invited me to his wedding because of the pressure from his dad, but did not speak to me. Neither did his wife. I actually didn't want to go, but my parents were really hoping it would bring some good, so I went for them. But after that, he decided that from then on I would not be included in anything regardless of whether his dad wanted him to include me. He and his wife had a baby recently and there is a small celebration planned. I am not invited, but my mom wanted me to send a gift anyway. I told her that wasn't going to happen. She said it would show me attempting to be a good aunt. I told her I will never be his kid's aunt, and that I am not part of his family and he is not part of mine. That I understood it was hard for her and my stepdad to see us not getting along, but he has made his feelings clear and I have no interest in forming a relationship with this child. I told her that child will always be a stranger to me. And it's okay if they have emotions about that, but they can't change things. Because the lack of relationship is a fact by now, and not something that will change. She was upset and told me I should still care because I am an aunt. Whether he likes it or not, and whether I like it or not. She said we are family, and we lived as siblings for a large part of our life. My mom told me to consider my actions, and now I'm wondering if she is right in any way. I don't know if I was a little too harsh when I have 0 issues with the baby. It's just a fact I will never be their aunt. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. No way. You shouldn't be expected to continuously go above and beyond for someone who's made it clear they don't want to have a relationship with you. Exactly. What she's doing is guilt-tripping you. Probably because you've been the most reasonable one up to date. It's easier to guilt you to keep at the relationship than try and convince her stepson to not be an A-hat. It's really unfair to you. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Relationships require consent of both, and failed relationships are a natural thing. Forcing one side to approach a side that doesn't care or want a relationship is folly. Not the a-hole. Just because your parents got married doesn't mean you're siblings. He made clear what he thinks of you, so why should you even think about being an aunt for that child? Exactly. Following the same logic, OP is not an aunt to this child. Not the a-hole. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.